What if the fear of failure is the only thing holding you back from the life you want? What if the walls you see are not real walls, but only shadows of your own doubts? Imagine, for a moment, living without fear of failing. What would you dare to attempt today? Welcome to Stoic Blend, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Today, we're exploring how Stoicism helps us confront the fear of failure and transform it into strength. Part 1. Fear of failure in modern life. Everywhere we look, the fear of failure whispers in our ears. A manager in New York loses sleep, terrified of being replaced by younger talent. A mother in Texas hesitates to start her own business, afraid that if it collapses, she'll not only lose money but the respect of her family. A student in California avoids applying to top universities, not because they're unqualified, but because rejection feels unbearable. Fear of failure is not just about losing. It's about shame, judgment, and the crushing thought, what will people think of me? And yet, the Stoics remind us that these fears are illusions. They are stories our minds tell us, stories that can be rewritten. Part 2. What the Stoics said. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Failure is never final. Only our response makes it so. Seneca wrote that setbacks are opportunities to test our courage, patience, and resilience. If you fail, you have discovered one way forward that didn't work, but you also gain strength. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. To him, failure was not a catastrophe, but simply part of nature's unfolding. This is the essence of Stoicism, fear of failure. Not to deny that failure exists, but to strip away the terror we attach to it. Part 3. Breaking down the fear. Where does this fear come from? Often, it's rooted in 3 things. First, the fear of losing face. What will others think if I stumble? Second, the fear of losing security, money, status, or reputation. Third, the fear of losing opportunities, thinking that one failure closes all doors. But Stoicism teaches us the dichotomy of control. Some things are in our control, others are not. Success or failure is not fully ours to command. What we control are our choices, our efforts, our character. Imagine preparing for a job interview. You can't control if the company hires you, but you can control your preparation, your attitude, your integrity. When you see this clearly, the fear of failure loses its grip. Another Stoic tool is negative visualization. Picture the worst outcome. What if you fail? What if you lose? When you see the worst and realize you could still endure it, fear begins to dissolve. And then comes amor fati, the love of fate. The idea that whatever happens, even failure, is part of your path. Not a punishment, but a teacher. Part 4. Practical exercises. How do we apply Stoicism fear of failure in our daily lives? Let's look at 4 practices. 1. Morning reflection. Begin your day by writing down the one thing you fear most today. Then remind yourself, this outcome is not fully in my control. What I control are my actions and my mindset. This clears away the fog of fear. 2. Voluntary discomfort. Do something small where failure is possible. Speak up in a meeting. Share an honest opinion. Try something new. By exposing yourself to failure, you weaken its power. 3. Failure journal. Each time you stumble, write it down. Then ask, what was in my control? What was not? This turns failure into wisdom rather than shame. 4. Stoic reframe. When you fail, instead of saying, I lost, say, I learned. Every failure becomes tuition for the school of life. Part 5. emotional resonance, and real-life connection. Think of the entrepreneur who launches a small business and loses money. To the world, it's failure. But to the Stoic, it's training. It builds resilience, creativity, and humility. Think of the parent who tries to connect with a teenager but feels shut out. Instead of calling it failure, they see it as a lesson, patience, persistence, and the reminder that love is not measured by instant success. Think of the worker laid off from a job. At first, it feels like the end, but later, they see it open the door to a new path they would never have considered. Every so-called failure holds a seed of transformation if only we dare to look. Part 6. Recap and takeaway. So what can we learn from Stoicism? Fear of failure. That fear itself is often more dangerous than the failure we dread. That failure is not a verdict, but a teacher. That by focusing on what we can control, practicing visualization, and embracing fate, we turn fear into freedom. The Stoics would tell us, failure is not the end. It is part of the path. If this perspective has given you strength, I invite you to continue the journey. Like, share, and subscribe to Stoic Blend so together we can bring ancient wisdom into modern life. And let me leave you with this question. What is one fear of failure that has been holding you back? And how might you face it with Stoic wisdom?